Hello and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I am Optimus Prime.
And I'm Gary. And today we're going to review and discuss The Transformers the movie. Iain, Optimus, why don't you give us the synopsis for the movie?
Well, the movie takes place 20 years after Season 2 and bridging the gap to Season 3 of the animated series. The Decepticons have taken control of Cybertron, and the Autobots have a secret base on two of Cybertron's moons and a base on Earth. The Autobots are planning on attacking the Decepticons, but the Decepticons end up attacking the Earth base first, ending up in the final battle between Optimus Prime and Megatron. Optimus is severely wounded and dies, passing on the Matrix leadership to Ultra Magnus, and Megatron is thrown out into space by his second-in-command Starscream. While Megatron is floating in space, he is picked up by a giant planet called Unicron and is tasked with finding the Matrix leadership and destroying it.
Transformers the movie came out in 1986 and of course was already well established with the animated series of The Transformers, which started in 1984. Of course, it would run for 4 seasons before eventually, with ratings were dropping and the toys weren't selling as much anymore. Before eventually, the Transformers was cancelled.
Yeah.
Of course, it didn't stop the Japanese sort of picking up the show and running sort of 30-odd episodes after that. There's also been spin-off shows. There's also the graphic novel. The comic books have also continued the story from alternate timelines and dimensions of different Transformers from the different generations. There were in total, though, about 98 episodes of the original run, which is also quite fantastic. And for me, sort of Saturday morning cartoons were never complete without a dose of the Transformers.
Yeah.
And there was always something special for me watching the Transformers as a young child, was soon realizing that there was a universe and there was a chronological order to these episodes where you realize that characters would come and go throughout the seasons, and it was actually telling an overarching story. Granted, some of the animation in the original cartoon is very poor, especially if you look at the original Gen 1 early 1980s versions, where some of the robots were missing arms or legs, or some robots would be replicated in the same shots. There was a lot of guffs and a lot of mistakes. There were over 100 animators per episode, and each episode would take about 3 months to complete, and also with a budget of about $1 million per episode, which is also quite a lot for the 80s. When Hasbro turned to decide to make the film of the Transformers, they gave the production team $6 million, which is quite a lot considering how much each episode would take, but they also had to make this movie at the same time as finishing Season 2 and starting Season 3. So the same animators were animating the series and the film at exactly the same time.
Oh shit, what are we gonna do now?
This was also in conjunction with the fact that the original Transformers lineup of toys had been selling quite successfully for 2 years now. Yet Hasbro decided it was time to change the entire toy market. And in order to do that, we're going to have to kill off some of your beloved Transformers so that the new show can replace them with new toys. So it kind of turns out that essentially what we have here is a feature-length commercial for the next wave of Hasbro toys. And of course, you could always look further back, and the Japanese were the original makers of these toys, and it was Hasbro that purchased the rights to sell them over in the States and in the UK, and then of course they rebranded it and renamed it the Transformers. But I always find it interesting that it's sort of an American-owned, Japanese-produced product.
I mean, for me, the 80s, you had the Transformers, Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles, or Ninja Turtles, where you come from, Thundercats, Action Force, or G.I. Joe, and you just had, like you said, Saturday morning cartoons, from like 7 till 9 was just episode and episode of like He-Man and Teddy Ruxpin and all this other stuff. And Transformers was there. You wanted to be on the side of the Autobots. They were protecting the Earth. They were fighting the Decepticons. The thing is, though, being my background with Sky and like I said, an American cable company of cartoons, I never got to follow all of season 1 into season 2 and into season 3. And I did not actually get to see the film until I was like 19 years old. And I had people looking at me like, what do you mean you've never seen Transformers the movie? I'm like, sorry, just never had the chance.
It got a theatrical release at the time, but of course then it was very difficult to get hold of a VHS tape,
Yeah.
yet alone a DVD in the early 90s of this film. And of course, this was sort of pre-internet as well, so you couldn't exactly look up and find out which episode you just watched to find out which episode you should watch next. And you could you only had the good faith of the TV network company actually airing them in the right order.
That's it. You sit down on a Saturday morning thinking, I'm going to watch Transformers, and they're like, nope, we've changed it for fucking Captain Planet and the Planeteers. You're like, what? You can't do this. I was in the middle of a fucking episode. But getting to the film, I mean, just the opening sequence. You got this weird planet-sized satellite floating out near the sun, flying towards another planet, and then eating the planet.
This is a kids-friendly movie, right?
I'm pretty sure.
Well, the film, interestingly, did actually get, I think, like a PG rating just because of the simple single swear word in the entire film.
Yeah, I love that.
Which was actually cut eventually and then re-put back in again for future DVD, Blu-ray releases. But, yeah, when you're watching the beginning of this movie, it is a oh shit moment. Because we're watching an entire planet get wiped out.
Yeah.
Like, absolute massacre, genocide. Like, I don't think any of them escaped. I think they tried to get to a shuttle to escape, and then you can hear their death cries as the shuttle gets brought back in. It's like,
then you're just like, what the fuck is that thing? And then you see it carry on flying,
and then the theme music kicks in, and it's like, oh wait a minute, you're trying to get me uplifted again after that massacre, and it's like, should I feel excited now? Okay, I'll get with it because the music's epic.
What we have just seen is Unicron, voiced by the phenomenal Orson Welles. And I always loved this about this cartoon. I mean, this was Orson Welles' last film production before he passed away. And at this time, he was quite ill.
Yeah.
He was literally on his deathbed. And the producers had to take his voice and put it through synthesizers to really get it to work.
I think that's a great idea, though, because he is sort of like an almighty, all-being robot.
Yeah.
So having him sort of sounding the way he does and then going through the synthesizer sound effects, it just creates a fantastic sound piece for this robot.
It's just booming. Like later on when he's talking, it's got such gravitas. It's just like, you will do this or I will fucking eat you. And I'm like, okay, Orson.
I am Unicron. I have summoned you here for a purpose. Nobody summons Megatron. Then it pleases me to be the first.
We also have some other fantastic voice actors in the film. We have Leonard Nimoy, who would go on to play Galvatron.
Yep.
We have Eric Idle, who is one of my favourite comedians from the Monty Python, who plays Wreck-Gar.
Yeah.
I have to say that, well, I'll get to that character later, though.
Obviously, we have the classics. We have Peter Cullen playing Optimus Prime, who would obviously go on to do the voice in the other Transformers movies that we obviously won't bring up because Gary gets very upset over those. We also have Frank Welker doing the voice for Megatron. You just gotta love a robot that transforms into a gun. And see, like we said, this is a kid's show, and back in the 80s it was like, let's sell as many guns as we can.
It's before we became a nanny state.
yeah, nowadays it's like Megatron would probably change into, I don't know, a slipper,
A mobile phone.
call people up. We have Chris Latta reprising the role of Starscream. He also did the voice for Cobra Commander in G.I. Joe. And we also have other characters like Neil Ross, who plays like multiple characters in this film. But he would go on to voice characters in the Mass Effect series and the Metal Gear Solid series, along with Paul Elding, who also did the voice for Colonel Campbell in Metal Gear Solid, and Roger C. Cornwell, who I always will remember as Mud from the original Star Trek.
So this film underwent several script changes, so much so that even a recent early draft of the script was released to sort of fans, and they went through it and just went, oh my god, how many changes were there to this? And so people were expecting something to happen in the film, to which none of that happened. The script changed that many times. The script was even being changed during development because Hasbro were actually creating the new model of toys based on this film.
Yeah.
And right from the get-go, after we've been introduced to the Autobots and then, of course, the Decepticons, war breaks out.
Yeah.
And Megatron has this elaborate scheme of stealing one of the Autobots' sort of carriers, flying into their base, and then war. And from the get-go, from this opening scene with Megatron, and he pulls out his gun and starts shooting Autobots. I'm just like, here we go. This is where they stand at each other. And they shoot and miss each other repeatedly, or the shots bounce off their armor.
No. He kills like 4 of them.
He just killed like 4 Autobots in 4 shots.
Yeah. There's one shot where Megatron actually looks... He doesn't even grant mercy to the guy on the floor. He just shoots him in the face. I'm like, okay, I don't even know what that robot was called, but I'm pretty sure he's dead.
Such heroic nonsense.
There's like smoke and blood and oil flying out of these Transformers. I'm like, I've not seen them die before, and now they're dying everywhere.
That's it. They get to the Earth base, and luckily Hot Rod, voiced by Judd Nelson, spots the side of the shuttle has been damaged and realizes it's full of Decepticons. So he manages to warn the base for it to go into lockdown. But literally, like Gary said, it just turns into a massive war. There's lasers flying everywhere. Things are getting destroyed.
I did wonder where the hell the rest of the Decepticons came from. They couldn't have all been inside that one carrier.
No, that's what I always just kind of try and overlook that part. I mean, watching the film, you're just like, okay, there was like 5 Decepticons in that shuttle. Now there's like 20 on the Earth base. You know, they couldn't have got there that quick, because it takes the Autobots like a whole day to fly from the base to help out. But yeah, they have to, literally, the Autobots are having to hold out in the Earth base so that they can get a message to Optimus. And then Optimus has to take like a whole day to fly all the way down there. You've got Devastator becoming this huge... I don't even think I'd ever seen Devastator before. And then all of a sudden I've got this group of robots that can group together to make this huge, massive robot that starts ripping this base apart. And I'm like, Megatron, why did you never use this guy before? Optimus finally turns up with the rest of the crew, and we get that awesome "You've Got the Touch" song kicking.
The moment he transforms, and I'm just going to nitpick now, but this was like the slowest transformation ever. Because the sound effect for the transformation goes off, and Optimus continues transforming for like another 6 seconds. It's like, maybe it was just a slow-mo transform because...
Yeah. They were just they try to put in a little bit more detail, I think, in the film to show, oh, look, if you get one of the robots, this is what you do to change it. Because you said it was slow. It would take me like 3 hours to transform one of those figures. And even then, I'd end up breaking a bit off and being like, fuck! But he finally turns up and he starts killing Decepticons. Or I think he kills a few Decepticons. He does like a whole backflip over the top of them and shoots like 4.
Well, I like this Optimus Prime because he is conflicted. I mean, he has he has a great line when he steps off and he just says, it's time to pay no matter the cost.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show that whether he's just lost his shit and he's just going to go and kill Decepticons now for what they've done, or whether he's actually, morally guilted into the fact that he doesn't want to kill all of these Decepticons because to him they're still his brothers.
Yeah,
but he has to do it now because they've finally gone too far, so to speak. And I just like the fact that Optimus is conflicted, and you can see it in his actions, despite the fact that he does now have to go on a killing spree.
Yeah, and then he faces Megatron. And he does the immortal line, one must stand, the other will fall. And I'm just like, I've seen this film multiple times. You're both going to fall. But the animator, whoever did the animation for this battle sequence really took the time. Because, I mean, the moment where Megatron picks up that piece of metal or rock, throws it into Optimus's side, they start having fights with laser swords, and then, I mean, I don't know how strong Optimus is compared to Megatron, but he just kind of picks him up and throws him on the floor, and Megatron's like, I quit! I'm like, Megatron, you were totally winning there. He threw you like twice.
He was just faking him out.
Yeah, he was. He's going for the laser. He grabs the gun. He convinces Optimus not to shoot him, and then he shoots Optimus himself. And then Optimus pulls like the double-handed uppercut punch, which sends Megatron down a hole, and Megatron's like, I'm dying now. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go with it, but they're both down. Both leaders. We've been following them for 2 seasons. They've never got to this point before, and now Optimus is down, Megatron is down, and the robots go on their own path.
The Decepticons retreat, knowing that their leader's down, and Starscream, of course, has managed to survive to this far.
Well,
He's one of my favourite characters.
He had to shoot himself in the foot.
He had to shoot himself in the foot. I like the fact that he kicks Megatron while he's down. It's just like, yeah.
I always loved Soundwave. Soundwave was always loyal to Megatron, and Megatron.
Soundwave was again, one of my favorites. He was actually scripted to die in this film,
yeah,
but they wrote him out and kept him around, and so he would appear in the later seasons, but different colours of him anyway. Yeah. Interesting enough, Transformers the movie came out the same year as James Cameron's Aliens, which would also feature Transformers.
Really?
Yeah. Go back and rewatch this sequence here, where Ripley and Newt are trapped in a room with the facehuggers.
Right.
They attempt to break the glass, and the minute after Ripley uses a lighter to hit the fire extinguisher, when she steps back to hug Newt, the medical apparatus that's in the room has 3 Shockwave Transformer toys, mid-transformation, spray-painted silver, and attached to look like medical equipment.
Really?
Some people have argued that this is not necessarily the Hasbro toy version of this Transformer, but maybe one of the knockoff ones. But lo and behold, it is a Transformer that is being used as a medical toy, a medical piece of equipment in Aliens. So we're then left with Optimus Prime laying on what will become his deathbed.
Yeah.
And you've kind of got this surgical robot on the side, and everyone's sort of looking at the computer terminals and watching his life signs ebb away. And then we're introduced to the Spark.
Yeah, the Autobot matrix of leadership.
Something which never existed in the 2 previous seasons of the show.
Yeah, he takes it out of his chest. And I mean, it would become the focal point now for the Transformers. As soon as this thing comes out, it would become the All-Spark. It would become the leadership matrix. It goes on in the comic books and the games and the films and everything else, all from this point. And it's like he's tearing out his own heart.
Yeah.
He takes this thing out and he hands it to Ultra Magnus. And I love Ultra Magnus's character at this point, because Ultra Magnus is like, I'm not a leader. I'm a soldier, this is too much. And
well, as a side note, Ultra Magnus was actually just a repainted and resprayed Optimus Prime toy anyway.
Yeah.
So
yeah, totally. But you needed that, because if you look at a lot of the Autobots, they are quite a bit weak. They turn into cards. One of them turns into a microscope. What the fuck? The Decepticons have got lasers and giant robots and fucking bugs that can eat shit, and you turn into a microscope. What the fuck is that gonna do? Another one turns into a radio and sends a signal. I'm like, they're killing Autobots out there, you know? But yeah, you've got Ultra Magnus, and Optimus says to him, look, I wasn't worthy when I was chosen, and he goes to hand him the leadership, and it falls from his hands. And I always think at this point, if Ultra Magnus had managed to catch it, it would have gone to him. But because Hot Rod caught it, it kind of, you know, became symbiotic to him instead of Ultra Magnus.
Interesting.
And that's why later on it doesn't work for Ultra Magnus and would obviously birth Optimus Prime. But spoilers, sorry.
And so we are now dealing with one of the most dramatic character deaths in cinematic history. I'm saying it because it was so depressing and so sad to see your hero fall 25 minutes into the film.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, but it's Optimus.
Yeah.
You know? You got all these I can only imagine all of these children in the theatre at the time just bawling their eyes out. Because when Optimus turns from his normal blue and red colours into a dull grey, it's just...
Yeah.
No. It's horrible, and it's done so fantastically well. It's like you've got this Vangelis sort of soundtrack playing, and then when the little boy that's there, Daniel, just starts crying, it's like, what?
That's it. 2 seasons of cartoons. They missed every shot. They couldn't hit each other. The Decepticons would always run away from the Autobots. Never in cinema history have I ever just sat there and bawled my fucking eyes out over a cartoon robot.
But, I mean, the thing is, we, at this point, have not had the chance to deal with the deaths of the other Autobots, including Ironhide, Prowl, Ratchet, Brawn, Windcharger, Wheeljack. They're just torn apart. Yeah. Some of them are killed off-screen. And it's like... And so when Optimus dies, that's it. That's when you let it all out.
Yeah.
Prime, you can't die.
We go from there to the inside of Astro Train. I always loved this robot. I don't think I'd ever seen him before, but it was a robot that could turn into a train and a space shuttle.
Large enough to carry the other Decepticons.
Yeah, I'm like, why aren't you in fucking charge? You know? And he's carrying the Decepticons back, but he's complaining about how he's too heavy and they need to drop some weight. So the healthy Decepticons decide to throw all the dying Decepticons out into space. And obviously Megatron is among that pile and he just gets booted out by Starscream. And as he's floating along, Unicron comes along and grabs him and basically says to him, look, you are now my slave. I can either eat you or you can work for me. And Megatron's just like, I think I'll go with working for you because I don't want to get eaten. And this is where we say goodbye to Megatron.
As well.
And we say hello to Galvatron, voiced by Leonard Nimoy. Now, technically, they're the same character because obviously they both turn into a different type of gun. You know, Megatron turned into a hand cannon, Galvatron turned into just a big cannon. And Galvatron would say later on that he does have partial Megatron's memories. So it's kind of like the ghost in the machine, ghost in the shell kind of idea.
Well, the voice actor for Megatron would actually reprise and take over the role of Galvatron in Season 3 from Leonard Nimoy anyway.
Yeah. And, you know, Unicron just says to him, right, now you are tasked with finding the Matrix of Leadership and destroying it because it's the only thing that can harm me. And you're just like, oh, okay, so this is now the plot of the film now. The Decepticons are going to be chasing after the Matrix Leadership. But it comes up to one of my favourite moments where Galvatron flies all the way to Cybertron with his kind of 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and they land, and Starscream is being coronated in front of all the Decepticons. And Galvatron just blasts him and kills him. And I'm just like, yes! Woohoo!
No, I liked Starscream. He was an awesome character. He brought some much needed comic relief to the film.
How is he an awesome character? He failed so many times.
Exactly. But this time, he finally achieved it. He finally became the leader of the Decepticons for like 5 seconds.
It's awesome. Galvatron takes control of the Decepticons and says to them, right, we're going after the Autobots. And heads back to Earth. And the Autobots obviously get chased from Earth into space. They get split into 2 groups, don't they?
Yes.
And one group, led by Hot Rod, ends up crashing onto this weird, strange planet. I love the fact that in this film, every planet they go to has robots.
Yeah, and it just amazes me that these planets are so close to our own Earth as well.
I also thought this while I was watching the film. I mean, obviously being older, when I was a child, I never thought this, but when being older. So, the Decepticons have invaded the Earth base and started shooting the place up, and then been driven off, and then come back and start shooting up the place again. Are the Earth governments kind of sat there watching this stuff go down, thinking, we are not getting involved because... Look at them, they're giant fucking robots. You know?
We'll all just end up with a Michael Bay movie.
Yeah. And that's another point, actually. People sit there saying, oh, I hate the Michael Bay movies. Why? Because it's just full of explosions. Have you ever watched the 80s movie?
There's more explosions. And you know what? I was thinking that the Michael Bay movies has a plethora of really annoying, insulting robots. Transformers the movie is no real exception, because I can name at least 2 robots in this film which are frustrating and irritating to listen to or just to watch.
Yeah.
There's this little tiny robot that rhymes everything that he's saying.
Oh, fucking hell, yeah.
You just want to strangle or punch or kick this robot just out of the scene.
Yeah.
It's like, and then there's another one that just talks really, really fast. And it's like, that's his gimmick. That's his setup. And it's like, and these are the new characters for the next season?
Yeah, I think it's Blair who speaks really fast. He's just like, blah, 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 blah. I'm just like, will you slow the fuck down, man?
Stop taking those pills.
And I mean, it kind of makes it more difficult that they put it through synthesizers to get these robotic voices. So they're speaking really fast and it's kind of muffled with the synthesizer. Okay, we're not children. I suppose children's ears are easier to pick up that kind of high-pitched noise.
Yeah.
It's like when Wreck-Gar turns up, voiced by Eric Idle, and he just tells you that he learned everything from TV.
But I can't even make out half the words he's saying. I sort of have to sit and think about what he's just said and try and put these words together because he talks so fast and the sound is so garbled. It's like, yeah, I know it's a commercial that he's saying and also trying to say something, but it was really irritating to watch.
Have a nice day, and please close cover before striking, friends. Reap it or Ruthie, so say the champion.
Hot Rod and Cup, I think it is,
Yeah.
have crashed on one alien planet, and Ultra Magnus and his team have separated from their back end of the ship to be destroyed by the Decepticons so that they can escape and land on the trash planet. And Hot Rod starts to become like the main central hero now because it seems like every situation he gets into, he's got a way to get out. And him and Cup get sent in front of like a kangaroo court. I think that it's being held by the Quintessons.
Yes, that's right.
A 4-headed weird robot thing that, you know, obviously new toy line, we're going to make this cool new robot. But I even sit there now, and I used to sit there with a kid like, are they just mercilessly just throwing robots to their death?
Pretty much, and it's like, for what reason? For who? Are they doing this for...
and entertainment for themselves?
Because there's the scene where they pull out this prisoner, and they stand him there, and he explains that he's the last one of his species.
Yeah.
The last of his kind. And they're like, innocent.
Yeah.
And they chuck him into this pit of like piranha robots. Sharkicons. It's vicious and brutal. It's like you just completed genocide there.
Yeah, you just killed him as well. Hot Rod and Cup get the kind of the same treatment, and as they get thrown in, the barriers that are holding them disappear. They land in the water, change into cars, and decide to whirlpool right back out again. So I'm like, okay, so the universe seems to be full of all these robots.
But not Transformers.
But not transforming robots. Right, okay. That seems a bit unfair. Ultra Magnus and his team land on the junkyard planet. They start getting attacked by Eric Idle and his crew, which seem to encompass the whole planet. These junkyard robots. There seems to be like millions of them.
Yeah.
And the Decepticons turn up. The Decepticons turn up, and they try to fight Ultra Magnus. And Ultra Magnus obviously tries to use the Matrix, and it doesn't work. And he gets blasted and dies as well.
We exterminate him! Die! Die!
Now, this is the thing that irritates me, is that we just watched Ultra Magnus explode.
Yeah.
Like, he took a ton of shots, and when he was down, he exploded.
Yeah.
His arms and legs went flying in separate directions.
Yeah.
I'm like, Optimus never took that much damage. Yet, a few scenes later, Ultra Magnus, yep, we'll just insert your leg here, your leg there, arm there, on, switch, there you go, how you feeling? It's like,
That's what I didn't understand. I'm like, right, you've just fixed him. Why don't you go back and get Optimus's body and bring him back to this planet to get fixed?
we'll save that for season 3, shall we?
Yeah, we got to save something for the new toy
Well,
line.
exactly. I mean, when this film came out and fans watched Optimus die the way he did, and watched all these other characters die the way they did, Hasbro and Marvel kind of were like, oh, this hasn't gone too well, has it?
Yeah.
There's kind of outrage right now. And, oh, our new toys are not selling? Let's quickly rewrite Optimus back alive. So much so that at this point, G.I. Joe, the animated movie, was in production, and their main character, Duke, was also scripted to die in that original draft. Yet, after the result of watching Optimus die, they were like, quickly change it. Duke, put him in a coma. Put him in a coma. Don't kill him.
I love that.
But the thing is, the Transformers movie didn't actually make its money back either. It actually came back just under budget.
Yeah.
Of course, now it's gone on to become a cult phenomenon. But as a result of it not making its money back initially, G.I. Joe never even managed to get a theatrical release. Also, as a result, another film that the studio was in production with, Gem and the Holograms, was scrapped entirely as a feature production.
No, Gem was really bad.
It was a girl show.
Yeah, it was a girl show.
So anyway, the Decepticons and Galvatron now owns the Matrix.
Yes,
and he takes it back to Unicron with the intent on defeating him.
Yeah, betraying him.
Betraying him, of course, because that's in Megatron / Galvatron's nature.
Yeah. But Unicron basically turns around and goes, no, I've got control of you. And he just kind of... Unicron just basically turns to Galvatron and says, you tried to betray me, I'm going to go eat fucking Cybertron now.
And he goes and smacks it.
Yeah.
And just more death and destruction. I mean, even when these Decepticons are getting torn apart, it's just like, I kind of still feel sad.
Well, I was looking at the back history of this, and it turns out that at the beginning, and this is the backstory for the Transformers universe, at the beginning of time, you had two robots, good and evil. You had Primus, and you had Unicron. And both of them could turn into planets, but Unicron finally managed to turn himself into a giant robot and wanted to eat the good one, because obviously that's what evil does, and the good one didn't want to do that. He wanted to, try and keep balance. And so he ended up shooting Unicron into a black hole, and that's why we see him kind of come back out at the beginning of the movie. And Primus turned into a planet which would become Cybertron. So it was kind of always in Unicron's intent to destroy Cybertron anyway, because obviously this kind of weird psychic connection he has with his brother. But that first hand shot you see, and the fact that he's got weird bat wings as well, and he shoots fire from his mouth and lasers and shit like that. But the Decepticons and the Autobots and the junkyard robots all decide that, you know what, Unicron, fuck you, we're coming for you, and they fly through his eye. I mean, I know we moaned about Alien versus Predator, the size of the Queen, but it's the same thing with Unicron. At one moment they fly through the eye in their spaceships, but then later on they drive out of their eye, out of the other eye in car form, and so you're just like, scale. We need this wonky scale.
The scale thing is something that's kind of a bit of a trope throughout all the Transformers cartoons as well as the film. Is that the different animators working on different cells.
Yeah.
Just the height and aspect of each of the Transformers would change from scene to scene. But yeah, it's more forgivable in this animated film.
It's cool. It builds up to a final fight sequence. I mean, Daniel finally saves his dad, Spike, and Bumblebee. I mean, Bumblebee's still alive. Yay! And Jazz as well. Hot Rod defeats Galvatron and gets hold of the leadership matrix and becomes Optimus Prime and uses it to destroy Unicron's body, so his decapitated head just kind of floats around Cybertron now. And the Autobots finally get hold of Cybertron after 2 seasons, and you're like, yes! But Optimus Prime's still dead. Boo.
Let this mark the end of the Cybertronian Wars as we march forward to a new age of peace and happiness. Till all are one!
Till all are one! Till all are one!
You got the touch!
Till all are one!
You got the power!
I have a fair few favourite scenes in the film. The scene when Hot Rod and Cup are being held prisoner.
Yeah.
I just kind of really felt the drama and the tension in that sequence, especially being introduced to these weird villainous characters that are sort of running this mock courtroom.
Yeah.
And just them being pushed into this fish tank just to be killed. It was grim. It was kind of also a sort of different pace to the rest of the film, which was just gung-ho crazy action.
Yeah.
Of course, I wouldn't be remiss if I didn't mention my favourite characters, which were Starscream, which of course was painfully executed after finally becoming command. But also Optimus Prime, the few moments he has in the film, just epic, just brilliant. But my absolute favourite scenes in the film all come from the Dinobots.
Yeah.
Of course, because 2 of my favourite things, robots and dinosaurs. Robot dinosaur. The Dinobots were always my favourite in the cartoon. I always loved Grimlock. I always loved Swoop. But Grimlock he gets some great lines in this, and I know he's a full-blown retard. But it's just, I mean, you got all these Dinobots dying everywhere, all these Autobots dying everywhere, and Grimlock's like, yeah, tell me another story. Tell me these war stories.
I will do my own thing in a minute.
But yeah, just brilliant lines, like all of the Grimlock scenes in the film.
Me Grimlock no bozo, me king!
I absolutely love this movie. I mean, whenever I think back, the scenes just kind of pop up always in my head. Memorable scenes, the death of Optimus and the death of Megatron, but their whole fight sequence is pretty damn awesome. It's something you've always been waiting for in the cartoon series, and then to see it happen kind of matures you very quickly and shows you that, in war this is what happens. It's not a kids show anymore. But if I really had to go with my favourite scenes, my first one is the death of Starscream. I just love the way he kind of stands there, turns all grey, and then completely becomes ash in front of everybody. And Galvatron just kind of steps on the crown like, fuck you, Starscream. And my second favourite scene was the oh shit line. I mean, I've seen this film quite a few times up to this review, and I've never heard that line. And then when I watched this, and I heard him say oh shit, I rewound it like, what the fuck did he just say? Oh shit, you can't fucking swear in a car series. What the fuck do you think? Fucking hell, man. It's just like, yeah, it's awesome.
Hooray! Look! It isn't even dented! Oh shit, what are we gonna do now?
I definitely recommend The Transformers, the movie. It is almost as if they have taken everything great and awesome about the 80s and compressed it into an hour, 20-minute movie for children.
Yeah.
Now, I have to say, coming in to watch this film, if you are not a fan of the show, if you've never seen the animated series and you watch this film first, you're going to be blown away by the fact that you don't know who anybody is.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these robots have interesting names and then are killed off screen. You're like, are they the Decepticons? Are they the Autobots? Who was that who just died? Who are they talking about now?
Yeah.
Who turned into what? And so it's so easy to forget who is who, where is where, and what planet they're even on. So because the movie moves at such a breakneck pace, it's so easy to get lost in it. But the music, the editing, the visuals are fantastic. I mean, especially the visuals, the amount of detail that we see in the Transformers, in the planets, in the backgrounds.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful to look at, especially if you compare it to, you know, the Gen 1 Transformers cartoon, which looks blocky, unfinished, and unpolished. So the film is really good to look at. I mean, it doesn't go into any deep science fiction, but just the science fiction imagery is just brilliant to look at. The voice acting is great. It's really good. The music is going to be like Marmite. Now, if you're a fan of the 80s, you're going to fucking love the power ballads.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. But if it irritates you, you know, you're gonna get turned off of this film within 5 minutes, because these rock ballads play throughout the film, and there are some really bizarre choices of song. It's this stupid song, like the moment when they meet these other Transformers on the planet, they do the international greeting.
Ba weep grana weep ninny bun.
Say that backwards, yeah. And then it cuts to this like party scene
Yeah,
where
they
this
start
song plays and they start dancing, and then
I'm like, Ultra Magnus is still dead over there, isn't he? And you're lot are all dancing.
and so, like I said, it moves at a quick pace. There's some great songs, there's some interesting songs, and there's the fucking awesome Transformers theme tune. Absolutely, definitely recommend that you watch this 1 hour, 20-minute toy commercial.
I definitely recommend this. If you are, like Gary said, if you're a child of the 80s, you grew up with the Transformers, you've probably already seen this film, you have the DVD, you have your own Transformers collection, you know, you're probably sat there watching this review with your Transformers t-shirt on and your Optimus Prime helmet on. If you're not a child of the 80s, you might still really, really enjoy this film, especially if you are looking into animating in the future. This, we always talk about the 70s and the 80s animated style, and, you know, they didn't have computers. It was literally people sat there with a sheet and tracing paper and pens, you know, working and putting in all the detail. The music is fucking awesome. The voice acting is fucking awesome. The detail and the transformation is fucking awesome. The fighting is fucking awesome. It's just, you can put this film on at any age and go back and just be a complete kid again. Autobots, roll out!
Ba weep grana weep ninny bun.
Ba weep grana weep nitty bun.
Ba weep grana